All righty. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today's Thursday, September 30th. We're about 2 minutes after 1 o'clock. And I have Sadhana
Good
joining
afternoon,
me.
good evening, everyone. Welcome.
I have to shut there we go. So Sadhana and I approached Sadhana to discuss this topic of adoption. And hello, everyone. I'll say hello to everyone in a moment. And I thought this would be a wonderful topic to discuss, considering what it is. It's dealing with adoption. It's dealing with besides having two different sets of parents, birth parents, and then our parents that raise us, I find that there's something very interesting, especially when you're going through this practice, tarot, divination, any form of divination, that you start finding certain aspects of yourself that show up that maybe you weren't even aware of. And so when I spoke with Sadhana about this recently, and I'm grateful that she was on board for this to discuss this. For some people, it's a very sensitive subject. For me, I'm open to talking about this, but I do have some sensitivity where I may hold back a little bit on going into detail. But to carry this conversation, Sadhana and I, we just did a reading, just like moments before going live, just to discuss some of the attributes of abandonment, separation, and how that affects us and how we can work through this in different ways for healing and for growing and self-discovery. So that's the premise of our discussion. And we'll talk a little bit. We're going to keep it very free flowing. We'll keep it open. Anyone who has questions, please put it in caps. If you want to address it to Sadhana, please put it in caps so she knows. If you want to address it to me, the same as well. So I think what we'll do is just to get started, and whatever you feel comfortable with, Sadhana, how much you want to share of your information of being adopted, and how you may have felt changes, growths during your time of building your spiritual practice.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Amy.
You're
It's a wonderful. I want to say that the journey with adoption began before I returned to my journey with the tarot. So I have 4 children. When I was pregnant with my first child is when the social worker called and said, would you like to would you like to meet your mother? And so this was, he's 28. He's 28 now. So 28 years ago, I received the phone call from the social worker, and this was a process I had initiated as a teenager. So yeah, so I'm open to questions, and I want you to know that I have worked with, the town where I lived formerly. There was a really great network through public health, and I did one-on-one work with other adoptees who were having challenges through the process. So I've done lots of self-work. I briefly mention it in an ebook that is linked in most of my videos presently. The ebook is titled, I think, something to do with forgiveness. So this is a journey of so many things. It's a journey of abandonment. It's a journey of exploring the archetype of abandonment and how that manifests in various ways throughout this lifetime for you, for me. And it's a journey of letting go.
Yeah.
It's a journey of letting go. So I'll say one more thing before I let you take over, Amy. But as I was shuffling, so I shuffled the lovely Om. And the deck was either sitting up or down, and I picked up the deck, and I noticed a card, which it happens to be the Queen of Cups card, and I'll show you in a moment. And I thought, oh, that is just the perfect card
Mm,
for this conversation. And then I shuffled and I did my spread, and it was the first card that came out.
wow.
And
It's
I'm going to show it to you right now.
oh my god, that's beautiful. Wow. How do you feel, Sadhna, when you just looking at the card right now? How do you feel? Does it feel like it's um, something that is missing that you need or that you want to have? How do you feel when you see that card?
This card and a couple of the other ones that appeared in the reading are cards of that reminder of our challenges, our more sensitive parts of our life.
Yeah.
No matter how much work we've done, no matter whether we're at a place where it still evokes um, a lot of emotion, or whether we're at a place where we can share and teach, it's always with us. It's always with us. And I don't know what that little tear duct organ is called. I'm actually compelled to go and look up what that little organ is called. But those tears
Yeah.
are, they're always there. They're always close to the surface. And I feel somewhat emotionally at peace. Not somewhat. I feel emotionally at peace with my whole journey with adoption
Mm,
and those other archetypes that I've mentioned as well too. But this card for me, it reminds me that it's a part of me. It's a part of who I am.
yeah.
It's a part of who I am emotionally, and maybe it's a part of um, why coming to this work has been so powerful.
Mm. It's when I saw the card, um, emotionally, I'm just when I was speaking everyone, when I was speaking with Sadhna offline about this before we were setting this up, there were moments that I still feel, and I feel it happening now, so I apologize if I get a little tight here. I guess there's no reason to apologize. It's just, especially the word abandonment, and when I think about it and when I feel that word, it hurts. And I know when I was adopted, there was no hurt involved. When adoption is taking place, for hopefully the universe is placing us into the hands of of a better family. Nothing's guaranteed when you're adopted. Doesn't mean that you're going to be placed into a better situation. That's up to the counselors at these agencies and whatnot they have to carefully go through all the information of the families that is being adopted into and the families that are doing the adoption. They have to really make sure it's a good match. But again, it's not guaranteed. Um, but seeing that card, the Queen of Cups, um, and thinking about the word of abandonment, I feel emotionally, um, there's an emotional abandonment right off the bat. It's not so much physical. Something is missing. And and I look at my past, personal relationships and whatnot. When someone leaves, I can handle that, but there's something deep down, Sadhna, that still shows that something is missing. I have a void, and so I feel the void gets filled when I do my practice, when I do asana. You're filling that empty space, you wanna fill it with love. It's not physical love. You find it through guidance, working with other people, like you were saying, learning from other people. I'm constantly learning. I'm also constantly searching. And I don't know if that has to deal part with me being adopted. I'm always looking for knowledge. It could be academic, it could be spiritual, also interacting with people. I like to know about people. So I feel there's that missing link for me. I'm searching. I'm always looking so I could find some answers. So that's why when I when I found out that you were adopted, it's like let me talk to Sadhana about this and see what the experience is. So that's just a little bit about my background and ways that I try to work with it. It's going to be lifelong for me. You know, some people they're at peace with it and they go on, but I still feel there's still some stuff going on. That's individual. But for the most part, um, and also losing my adoptive mom over 20 years ago was a double whammy because now I don't have that maternal aspect in my life anymore. So I've really had to learn to be my own mother, take care of yourself. And you learn to become stronger in that sense. But I also feel, and I'll be quiet in a moment, I also feel that when you're doing that kind of work, you're trying to take care of yourself. I feel like it's too much. And I feel like I need something from outside to come and just ease me away from this. I feel like I'm being too hard on myself. I'm doing too much work. And then those emotions start coming up. And it's like, God, I wish I had mama here. You know, I'm my own mama. So I've taken the role being adopted and no longer having, my mom that raised me, my father's still around, that I really have to do double roles. I
Mhm.
really have to do a lot of work.
Yeah,
And
I
so
completely
it's a
understand that.
lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot, Sadhana.
It is a lot, and I think that part of what goes there's a lot of, beautiful and also painful comments in the chat that we should perhaps,
Okay.
get to at some point, and I wanna thank you all for sharing your
Thank you.
stories and your situations, and yes, I understand there's a lot of different ways that adoption, is perceived, and all of our experiences are very different, and I want to acknowledge all of your experiences with this, whether they are joyful or have been horrific. And we hear you. And if we do not acknowledge your comment in this chat, we will both be going back through it and thoughtfully and carefully um, receiving your messages. So thank you for sharing. I understand it's a very vulnerable situation for everybody. Yeah.
So
So
these are our own experiences, like Satna was saying. So please be kind. I haven't looked at the comments yet, but Sadhana's obviously been watching. Um, please be kind and understanding, but also freedom to express yourself as well. But just keep in mind the platform that we're at, and um, and just to be careful of of anything that's been stated.
mhm.
Um, okay, so I see here. All right, let me first say hellos to everyone. We're going to keep this open for a little bit. Lady Kate, thank you so much for coming in. Gerald, thank you as well. Lily Valley, thank you as well for joining. Um, Andy the Wildflower, hello. Thank you for coming in. Alexi, thank you for coming back. Always wonderful to see you. Jonathan, aloha. Thank you as well for taking part. We're going to start looking at the comments here. Linda, hello. Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Nancy, thank you for being here as always for your support. Does that look like everyone, Sadhna, from what you've
Oh no,
seen?
there's lots more. Al
Okay,
Shai Khan, um, oh, others.
like
Auntie
anyone
K.
new.
Auntie K has a very interesting comment.
Okay, let me
Um,
see here because I know I can only. Let me do.
and Lady Capera, did you address her by a different name?
I go Lady K.
Lady K. Okay.
Which comment was it Sadhana that you saw?
There's a couple. Alexi has a story
Okay,
to tell,
I think
as
it's this one.
well as there was another one. Oh, Auntie K. Auntie
Anti-K.
K. Further down.
Let's see.
But
There
let's
it
look at
is.
Alexi first.
Okay. I'm not adopted, but I was truly abandoned as a child. And due to circumstances, I learned very quickly to be aware of my environment. And it was through that abandonment I learned to trust spirit.
Mm.
You definitely have to be strong, like I said, when the term abandonment, I'm not fond of it, but like I said, you really have to realize where your strengths and weaknesses are, and and what aspect of yourself really needs to be worked on to continue, you know, going through situations. You know, that strength of the soul. And I have to say, Sadhana, I am so blessed to have that yoga practice that I
Mm.
started 20 years ago
It
because
is. It does fill the cup very much. And
yeah,
if we, another term that we could use is separation.
separation.
Abandonment is a very harsh word.
Mhm.
And separation is, it's a very yogic term as well too. When we talk about the contrast with union and separation, or
Yes,
union and dualism,
yes,
and
I agree.
whether we're talking just about being separated from the mother in the womb and the cutting of the umbilical cord. Separation has lots of levels, and it's a really interesting metaphor to look at, whereas abandonment has a different vibration.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Let's use the word separation. It's a little kinder. Um, but yeah, Alexei, you definitely learn. And I'm an only child, so I have no problem with that. But I really had to learn as I got older, um, to work through some things on my own. As you mature emotionally, you discover so many different aspects of that. Um, the next one you said was Andy? Was it Andy?
No, Auntie K.
Okay, I believe it's this one here. This one here?
Yes.
You wanna take that one, Sadhna, while I think about it?
Well, this is not part of my experience, and if this is in Canada, so this is really interesting that we're coming on today, and I synchronicity is just a powerful, powerful energy. So today is a new national federal statutory holiday that is recognizing the horrors of the recent discoveries of the mass graves of children
Okay.
that were buried um, near the schools, where indeed, and I'm wondering if Auntie Kay is from Canada, and is recognizing the situation of the residential schools and their
Mhm.
recent. I mean, this summer, what was released and what came forth was just heartbreaking.
Yeah,
And so today in Canada, we have a new holiday, a
okay.
new statutory holiday that is recognizing today as a day of mourning, a day of acknowledging the pain. And in the schools, so in the public schools yesterday, so the day before this, is referred to as Orange Shirt Day. It's a day where all children matter, all children count, and it's recognizing the. It's there is a UN day as well too called it's the International Day of the Child, or the Rights of the Child.
Okay.
And so the
Mhm.
this is a it's just it has so much pain, Amy.
I well, I remember reading the article, it's just like, that is just amazing that but some people, from what I remember reading, saying that they knew about this, but they nothing was being done, or I guess they were trying to come forward. And then the discovery is like, see, look, everything that we've been telling you is true. It did happen. And I remember the most heart-wrenching image that I saw, and it was in BC, up in Vancouver. All the shoes. I think they placed shoes of all the people, of
Wow.
all the young
Yeah,
kids.
that's very powerful.
Yeah.
The there have been lots of documentaries for those of you that aren't aware of this. I mean, we have people all over the world that watch our channels, and there's been lots of documentaries over the last couple of decades, um, and attempts to understand the power and the anger and the cultural um, the attitudes of a different time, the
Yeah.
attitudes of a different time where people were truly believed to be less than
Yeah.
and not seen. There was no value placed in a culture. So I where I live and work and breathe, all children, all people, all cultures are valued, and it is a different time. But I know there are places in the world, there are places in Canada where people are still made to feel less than, and it's very sad.
Yeah.
So I feel this is a completely different topic, and I would really like to acknowledge and bless and hold light and love around this energy, and um, go back if we can to share our stories, and perhaps we will circle back to this.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's yeah, we'll stay on topic, but, thank you for stating that, Sadhna. Um, I think here in the US, we probably there'll probably be news of it, but it won't be obviously, focused upon, because it's something that took place in Canada, and the news is just what it is. Um it's very difficult, so I don't pay attention too much to the news. But anyhow, need to scroll up here a bit. Okay, so we saw Alexi, and I'm just gonna start flashing up some of the comments. Okay, and here's one from Lily Valley. The card that you held up makes me think a lot of compassion and the gaze of the one who reads in the other, the emotions. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you, Lily. Let me know if you have, Sadhna, if you want to just make a comment. Um, I'll keep going here. The other one here is, did you see what Jonathan stated? The name of the tear duct?
Yes, yes, I thanked him.
Okay. I'm going to show this one here from Andy the Wildflower. The emotional part that is with you is what makes you such a powerful healer for others. Yeah, I think for most people who are readers, especially oops, sorry. Especially in our situation, Sadhna, we're coming from a place of discovery and learning about ourselves in different ways. People who are intuitive, they come from a place where there has been some form of trauma and they're trying to heal. I see it on YouTube. I see it through various readers. They come from a place where they've healed and they want to share that experience. They want to expand it with others. So I can feel when you have this kind of connection of being adopted, there's something more going on. You learn about yourself in a different way than others who may not have been adopted. Everyone's life is different. So there is a lot to learn from in that respect.
There is. And yes, Auntie Kay, we were talking about all adoption and the experience of this separation and how we might heal and learn and grow through this experience. Um, it it is, and then the other part of this conversation is what happens when we search and or find reunion, and we have another family that enters our lives as well too. So there's also that part of the conversation.
Think also the way that you were adopted. I believe you were adopted at birth, correct, Sadhna?
Yes.
Okay. That process of being adopted at birth versus being adopted at an older, when you're in your teens, 5 years old, so on and so forth. You're already building your connection with already someone being with someone else, and then being pulled out of that situation and being placed into a permanent family. And there's also uncertainty. A good example is foster children. My God, constantly going from one home to the next. I've spoken to quite a few people. I know more foster people, foster children, foster adults than I do of adopted children. And I think there's a reason why they express that more, because it's just something that's so unreal for them, because they're going from one family to the next. There's trust issues, there's issues of love. Um, you know, there's such an unsettledness that comes with someone who goes from foster homes to the next, as opposed to
Mhm.
being adopted. You're pretty much all set with that family. Um, but yeah, it's my
The,
thoughts are
there's a really important piece here though, and that is to acknowledge and understand one's story
Mhm.
can be very helpful to growing, to spiritually evolving. We may not have all of the facts and information, the details about the story, about the background, the history, the family heritage, and so forth. But our adventure, our research with trying to understand and learn more about it is always an ongoing part. But I feel that the perspective from which we delve into that is really important. And as if there's emotions of anger, resentment, abandonment, um, or other negative emotions, negative energies that come forth, there needs to be a process of being with that,
Yeah.
and then either on your own or with others to help you let that go. Because if we carry that through our whole lives, that pain, we we will get sick. We won't be well, mentally well. And what I was saying at the beginning is that there's this tier. There's this tier that is always with us, but it becomes part of our wholeness, not part of our it's part of our wholeness that we recognize. And yeah, it's the we I don't want to say we rise above, but we grow with it, and it grows. I don't know, maybe you can help me find the language around this. Like
It's
we don't go through life identifying with being abandoned.
Mhm.
We heal that, and it's a process. It's a continual process of healing that separation. And we learn about separation through other ways and through other relationships. And until that archetype of separation is healed, it will keep coming up in um, partner relationships,
Yeah,
relationships with children and
yeah,
siblings, and different aspects.
yeah. Um, when you mention relationships, I think that's the key when you're being as a person who's adopted. I think that's the key where you really start learning more about yourselves because now you're interacting outside your family, how you interact with friends, business people, husbands, boyfriends, lovers, all of that. All of that plays a role. And I felt I learned quite a bit more so with my intimate relationships than my family because you can have a loving relationship with your family, but when it comes to intimacy, building that kind of relationship with someone else, you definitely hit some other points, and you learn about it. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about my last long-term relationship. There was a lot of going back and forth. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of passion, but trying to understand where this was coming from. And also interacting with someone who has their own issues as well. It becomes it becomes a completely different dynamic. And then when you leave that relationship and you look back, you start thinking, okay, because whenever you're in a relationship with someone, I always say this, it's attributes that you're looking for that you may not have. You take it in from another person, vice versa. It goes down with friends. It goes down with me connecting with sadhana. There's attributes of sadhana that I respect and embrace because there's some qualities that she has that I may not have refined or have at all. And so it becomes empowering. And I like to learn more about that. And you engage with people in that way. And so I think it's very important when you're adopted to heal even right through your relationships. It's lifelong. I can't say
Mhm.
that enough. Um,
And there may be a tendency to expect the other to leave.
hmm, I think maybe at some point, especially when things don't work out, it's like, okay, this person's going to be gone. I will say that with the last relationship.
I'm wondering even bigger than that. I'm wondering if subconsciously, if the
Mm,
archetype is not healed, if there is an energy of eventually they will all leave.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying now.
Mhm.
Sometimes, you know, the word self sabotage. Sometimes you can set up something so that you could prevent getting hurt. It's like, you know what? I'm going to leave, or I'm going to do something. They may not be aware of it, but they do actions to where um, it's like an easy out for that person
Mhm.
instead of addressing the issues right there.
Right.
I like to address. I
It's
like to
easier for
address
me
the
to leave
issue.
than address the issues.
Yeah, because I don't like that. I need to know what's going on. Like I said,
Mhm.
answers. I'm always looking for answers and
Yeah.
guidance. Um, let's see. Did we miss any other statements? Because I do want to pay attention. It's very hard, everyone, because I'm not very hard, but I'm dealing with my emotions and also keeping on track what we're focusing on about soul searching, and also through the tarot. Um, so if there's
Jonathan commented on his dad's side, his native heritage was suppressed as a vicious rumor for so many generations. I can't trace the original tribes. I
mm,
can't even claim the blood that's in me.
wow,
Mhm. It's so what do we do when we can't find our tree? And here's a whole other, oh, this is a really interesting question. So, what is the tree and the roots? So, does the family who's not your blood, are those roots as powerful as the roots that came through your DNA? And how do you feel about that? and I'm asking you, Amy, but also asking everybody in the chat, because this is I feel like there's okay. So what I want to say here is that it's not so much the story, and I'm going to say the family tree and the roots are the story. It's about rising, or yeah, rising in love and rising to a bigger picture where it's just about our healing.
Mhm.
And if we get lost, and I think about people who spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on a like ancestry, or
Yeah.
searching and searching just passionately, spending money they don't have. I mean, there's lots of different ways people kind of do this thing, like it's a grasping.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. It's amazing. I love people that have created all these great um,
Mhm.
research projects, but at the same time, is it are you well? Are
Mhm.
you well? And so how can we become well, and how can we become whole? And at what point do we stop this? I'm thinking like Amber digging madly,
Yeah.
irrationally. When is it healing, and when is it irrational?
I feel, to answer your question, just straight off the bat, because of my parents, my adoptive parents, um, those those 2 souls, those are the ones I connect with. Okay, I wasn't birthed through my adoptive mom, but I I it makes no sense to even look for, now when you're talking about the family tree, you're talking about the family tree from your birth parents or the adoptive parents? Because I have no interest looking into the birth, or I'm sorry, no interest in looking at the family tree of my adoptive parents, because I don't, that's not where my roots came from. My focus with my adoptive parents was they were there for me. They raised me. I don't I don't care about my great grandparents or anything like that. What they did, I think that's the connection. I think when people do ancestry, for some of them, not all of them, they want to find something interesting. They want to look for a treasure. Maybe I had royalty in my family. They're looking for something special, and that's so ego driven. And I mentioned this to Sadhana, and I'll mention it publicly. Um, I never pursued looking for my birth parents. After my mom passed away, I called the agency that my parents went through the adoption with, and I just got some information that was very unique. But I felt after I lost my mom, that's it. I feel that there's no need for me to search for anything. I was raised gratefully, Sadhna. I was raised by loving parents, and they went to church, but they didn't really push me. But, I went to Sunday school when I was younger and stuff. But when I left home, I became my own individual.
Hmm.
So when it came to the family roots, that's it. It's done. It's in the past. My experience came from my parents, raised me, and that's it. I don't, I don't care if my birth parents may have had millions of dollars or whatever their background is. I got some interesting information, and that was it. I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to have any contact with my birth parents. I don't even know if they're even alive.
Hmm.
So that's so that's my way of making making peace. It's in the past.
The So what you were saying about searching for royalty, or searching for a famous person in your history, when I'm doing Jonathan has a really nice comment towards the bottom. It starts, the first word is ancestors.
I see
Ancestors
it.
are not just family.
Thank you.
So when I'm doing past life readings or past life work, especially if I'm doing multiple sessions with somebody, and what I'm looking for and helping them to find is not so much the story, like I keep saying, it's the archetype that needs healing.
Mhm.
So what is the most recent past life where you still carry the wound? And how can we bring awareness to that wound so that it can begin to be healed? And maybe this came through something, some famous historical situation, and maybe it didn't.
Mhm.
But that's, to me, that's pretty much the same thing as looking back through, whether it's adoptive history or family history from your birth family. If I'm looking for anything, it's because I want to understand what I'm going through energetically and how I can move that move that.
Mhm.
And you were saying at the beginning, you could start to feel your throat and there's some tension in your body. And I'm surprised as well too, because I've shared and talked about this many times. I have tension in my heart and my throat, and it surprises me. It surprises me
Yeah.
how that is how that's coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's ongoing. It's gonna be like this. And
Mhm.
I'll be really upfront, I'm a little nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous, but I think it's nervousness in the sense that I'm actually sharing. I'm
Mhm.
sharing this. Um, I'm not nervous in the sense what someone's gonna think about, it's just the energy that I'm feeling. I have my hands crossed. They're not like this, but I'm kind of in a protective position right now, but I'm trying to remain comfortable. So
Mhm.
as we're talking, I'm acknowledging, like you were just saying a moment ago, how we're feeling. So it's, and I think as you get older, um, and you get closer to the last decades of your life, you really, I think you start feeling this a little bit more so. Because when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and you know that you're adopted, you're experiencing something different situations. But now as we get towards the tail end of our lifespan, you really start, for some reason I'm starting to feel it a little bit more. And and that's something that I'll work through. It's
Mhm.
how I'm gonna work through it, I don't know, but I'll continue my search. I'll continue asking questions. I'll continue, um, if I cross paths, opening up and hearing people like yourself, Sadhna, people who are foster children, people who have that sense of being separated. This also involves some relationships, people who've been married for maybe 25 years and this was their lifelong partner. They're almost like family, they're almost like blood. And then separation right out of the blue, if
Mhm.
that's the case.
I want to address Jezebel's comment.
Sure.
And she said, willing adoption is a lot different from forced. So I'm going to share with you my story, um, because I think there's a fine line here. And if we look at this, if we take out the emotion, and how in the world can you do that? I don't, maybe you can't even do that. Um, we want to look at the situation simply as separation.
Mhm.
And I believe with all my heart and everything that I have done and studied and all of the wise ones that I have worked with, that we step into this lifetime, and for the most part we have chosen our path and chosen what it is that we are working on.
Yeah.
I don't know if we I don't know if we exactly delineate the specifics of the story. I don't know that bit,
Mhm.
but we've chosen separation. I believe I chose separation. So when my birth mother had became pregnant with me, her father um, forced, I'll use the word forced, it's not a word I would normally use, to leave the community and go to another city. And she was placed into um, a home for, what's the word? A home for pregnant women, like for
Unwed mothers.
unwed women,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this is in the early 60s. And so it was not her choice. So there's that layer. And there was a tremendous amount of love for the time that she carried me and the moments that she held me after I left her body. There was tremendous love. She named me, she held me,
Oh,
but she was forced to let me go. That was not her choice. And she carried that pain until we were reunited 20, I don't know, many, many years ago. No, that's not how many years ago. I can't even do the math.
that's
Um,
decades.
uh, a long time ago,
Yeah.
30 something years ago.
Yeah.
So, um, no, we were reunited because I was pregnant with my son. So I said 28 years, right? Because
Mm.
my son is 28. So I was pregnant. So I was reunited with her when my belly was big. So,
Okay.
um, it was a very challenging situation, and the journey of me and my family and my half sisters and my birth mother meeting my adoptive mother and the union of those families and all of that it's a huge story. But what struck me with Lady Jezebel, sorry, what's
Let me
the
go back. There we go.
Jezebel's comment was, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it is different, if it's willing or forced,
Mhm.
because I have firsthand experience with women who have willingly released their children, gone through open adoption, and then changed gears
Yeah.
midway. And I have no idea what kind of confusion or long term issues this effect has on the son who was released.
Mhm.
And so I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it is different. I Separation is separation.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be really gentle with how we view this very, very delicate issue.
Yeah. Um, there was I think it was on 2020, many decades ago. And I already knew I was adopted when I watched this particular program. My parents weren't home, but I watched it. It was on Sunday night. And they were talking about a particular situation. This hurts a little bit when I think about it. A family who put up a child for adoption. And I don't remember what state this was in. And years came by, I think like maybe six, the child was like 5, 6 years old, and was placed into the adoptive family. Time passed. The birth mom wanted to have the child back. And there was the video showing the birth mom got that child back. It was taken back to the birth mom. taken away from the adoptive parents.
How old was the child?
Somewhere between like 4 or 5 years, young. And I remember the child crying and the adoptive mom screaming, "Don't take her away." And that really got me thinking. I don't know what state this took place, but the birth mom was able to get that child back. And I'm certain the adoptive family fought, but I'll never forget seeing that. And that concerned me. It's like how I know, Jonathan, I saw your comment about open adoption. My ex-husband, his wife, had a child, which they did open adoption. And I just have a concern about that because of that, you know, risk of the birth mom wanting to come back and take the child. I know there's legal documents, there's all of this, and I'm guessing it varies from state to state. But when he told me that, it's like, wow, that's like having your cake. And no offense, anyone, to what I'm going to say, it's like having your cake and eating it too. I think once you make up your mind and you decide to release that child, that's it. And like you were saying, I don't know whatever happened to that child. But to do that, it's like it's going back to foster children. You're going from one place to the next. You're so disconnected. Um, you almost don't care. You end up being emotionless when it comes to stuff. It's like, oh yeah, we'll probably be here for 6 months and then we're going to leave. We're going to be placed somewhere. But when you were talking about that, Sadhana, I really thought about that, and it scared me. I was a teenager when I saw that, but it's just like, wow, a lot of nerve if the birth mother decides to come back and try to, you know, take a child back. That's just me, okay? So I don't mean any offense. That's my opinion, but I just feel it's a little risky.
Yeah, I know Jonathan has an open adoption.
Yeah.
He and
No offense,
it
Jonathan.
may very well work for some
Yeah.
families to have the communication and that's beautiful. That's beautiful too.
Mhm.
Yeah. For me, when I met my birth mother, um, I was 30. I was 30 years old. And I want to say at that point in my life, when I was younger in my teens, I was searching for it. And then when I was 30 and I had the opportunity to connect, I had second thoughts like, oh, I'd completely forgotten about that I was doing this, that I had put in these requests. And in British Columbia, which is the province that I live, the the um, the province, the regulations changed around that time, and so some of the records became unsealed. Everything was still redacted very much,
Okay.
but a lot of the documents became available. So um, yeah, it was. I wasn't really sure if I should do this, but many years have gone by, and I since have been reunited with some beautiful sisters who I love very much, half sisters, so same mother, different father, and we have an ongoing relationship. They all met and knew my adopted mother. Both my mothers have crossed to the other side, and um, that in itself is a whole other, like losing mother twice
Yeah.
is and actually losing mother three times, right? Because you lose mother when you're born,
Yeah,
and then mother dies, and then mother dies. It's a lot of loss of mother.
yeah.
So this is why it's an important to reach out for help and to have a circle, to not to think this is nothing. This is not something that needs to be addressed and nourished and nurtured and healed. Is um, we need to talk about this.
Mhm.
We need to talk about this throughout our lives. It's not nothing.
I think, part of the issue was with my past relationships, um, trying to express my experience with someone who hasn't been adopted. And so, the best that they can do is listen and console if needed, but also to try and understand. But it's not the same as connecting with someone who has gone through the process, whether they were adopted at birth or older. Um, everyone has different forms of separation, but I think here, um, the being adopted, soul wise, spiritually wise, there's a lot going in. And Sadhana and I have been more or less repeating some of what we've been saying, but putting it into different words. Um, and and it's that process of, you know, as we're talking, tears, um, any uncomfortableness that we feel. And I mean, this is a counseling session right now. I think
Mhm.
Sadhana and I are doing. We're publicly having a counseling session here in front of
When
everyone.
I joined with the Shamanic Institute in Squamish, British Columbia, and I started my medicine wheel training, our first exercise was to go back into the womb
Mm,
and to get into the waters of the womb and to feel and to be there and to understand our birthing experience. And this was at that time I had connected with my birth mother. And these are questions that I started to ask her and to dive deeper into what it how she was feeling and what were the emotional factors around her pregnancy,
mm,
both before she left her community, while she was in the community. And so I learned a lot um, through this exercise.
hmm,
And I believe that my healing journey has been guided in so many different ways. And if it weren't for me entering into that medicine wheel training, I wouldn't have healed and worked through that portion
yeah.
of the experience. So I'm really, really grateful for spirit guiding me through various modalities and meeting different people who've
Mhm.
assisted and supported me to become the person I am and to present these gifts and offerings that have become such an important part of my life.
You have definitely grown,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I feel this is so important when doing some soul searching. Um, oh, Jonathan, it's okay. Um, if like I was saying a moment ago, it's very hard to find someone to talk to about this unless they've gone through the process. So what do you do? This is just a general question. It doesn't have to be answered. What do you do when you feel like um, you need that guidance? You know something's missing. Okay, you can't really talk to everyone about this because they won't understand. So you look into sources. People go into religion. They do different forms of exercises. They do different courses just to learn different aspects of who they are. For me, just interesting enough, yoga, I have to say this, I don't talk about it a lot on my channel, that yoga was just something unbelievable, Sadhana. And it
Mhm.
has nothing to do with the adoption. I didn't start yoga because I was adopted. I actually started yoga because I had an injury. But it was in that process that things started opening up. I remember taking a restorative class and doing legs up against the wall, Viparani Karani.
Viparita Karani.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Legs up against the wall and go to a V. And I was breathing, relaxing. And then I started crying. Nothing. Started crying and went to the bathroom, bawled my eyes out. Came out 5 minutes later. The teacher acknowledged me, winked at me, and I went back, finished the class. And it's that all the stuff starts releasing. It comes through asana, comes through meditation, comes through your medicine wheel. It comes through so many different forms. Don't feel that you have, people go through therapy. I feel the direction that you feel that you are starting to get results, that you are finally opening up. I think the key here, Sana, is just being open,
Mhm.
opening up. Just let whatever happens.
So as an asana teacher, I used to teach a class Sunday mornings, a restorative class. And some people go to church, some people go to restorative yoga.
Yeah.
And I taught Sunday school for years. I was part of a Christian church, and I've anyway. I want to talk about what happened when I was teaching Sunday morning asana restorative yoga. One of the things that I said before every public class was that if the emotion starts to arise in the physical body, just grab another blanket. You can turn over into child's pose. You
Mhm.
can move into shavasana, get a couple blankets, get a bolster, turn on your side into a fetal position, but please stay and just cry. And if you want to cry quietly or loudly, this is a space for you to release. And the power, never underestimate the power of asana. The I believe things have shifted. So if you know anything about the Yoga Sutras, the path in through yoga, I'm going to say, used to come through the teachings and the lifestyles,
Mhm.
but the swamis now are really understanding that we can't dive in with meditation and pranayama until we have opened the body. Our bodies are so closed up and energetically store and hold so much. And so it can be a restorative class. It could be a gentle hatha class. It could be a vigorous power class. It might come through Bikram's hot yoga. It doesn't really matter. The power, it could come through some kind of a Tai Chi or a moving meditation. We begin
Mhm.
to open up the energy bodies through the physical body. And
Yes.
it's important that when this starts to arise, we don't we don't suppress it.
Mhm.
And in our culture, we want to excuse ourselves and run to the bathroom and cry. And that's not the best thing that we can do. I'm going to say one other thing, and then I'll let you speak. During Reiki, so I offer Reiki, and one of the best pieces of advice I received from a Reiki master was I'm not sure if maybe it didn't come through that, was to not offer a tissue. Actually, it came through one of my yoga teachers. I know who shared this with me. To not offer a tissue, to let them blubber and to let the snot, the mucus, flow and pour. Eventually, they will probably need to clear their sinuses, but to not offer a
Right.
tissue right away, to let it become as intense as it needs to become. Same with the shaking. If you start to shake, let the shaking happen,
Yeah.
right? These are energetic releases from the body.
Mhm.
If you need to, if your stomach starts rumbling and all of a sudden you become really gassy, the thing is like, oh, I got to run to the bathroom. That's probably the best thing you can do is stay there and just let the gas release from the body.
Mhm.
So this energy, the power of yoga, the asana practice is really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I've taken classes and seen people cry,
Hmm.
it's just unbelievable, and you come out of it, you've done asana, and on top of it, you've cried. That's very exhausting, and, the other process I feel related to after having a release like that, be kind to yourself. Go home, um, have a cup of tea. That's very strenuous on the body and on the mind and on the emotions when all that's going. When you have a good cry and you've come out of it, you're exhausted.
Hmm.
Your body has just gone the shaking, your body has just gone through some immense, movement. Go to bed early. Don't even take a bath. I think a bath could be too draining. Go to bed, do something just to soothe the energy. Um, just be still after that. I think that's all you're gonna be able to do, and allow the body just to feel how it's feeling. Rest up, and the next day, just be kind. Just be gentle, move into it. Because I know after this discussion that I have, I'm going for a walk. I
Hmm.
always do walks, but this one's gonna be a different kind of walk. Um, and it's a release, it's a form of release for me, and I feel good. Movement's very important. Um, I wanna I wanna point where is it? The comment about the tarot.
Yes, Lily Valley's comment.
Yes. Oh, I really wish, here we go. I wish StreamYard would give my guests the option to, show the comments. Uh, for soul searching, healing other ways. There are many different ways, Lily Valley. Of course, when you're doing any kind of soul searching, self discovery, there's different ways you can approach um, the tarot. Um, Especially if you're in a position where there's a lot of emotions going on. Me personally, I like to keep a reading very simple. Even when I do my evening meditation tarot readings, which I do like once, twice a week, I pull one card, one, maybe two cards. I don't want to do a whole spread. That's like eating a full meal before going to bed. Just, and I work with the major arcana because those are archetypes. Archetypes, as Sadhana has been discussing, is very important. These are our specific guides that can help us um, in a specific situation. So for me, Lily Valley, um, I sometimes pose a question, but for the most part, I just, whatever I'm feeling at the moment, I bring that energy into the cards. And with the decks that I've worked with, or that I do work with, I feel they know me pretty well for the most part. Sometimes it's off, but that's what I do. I pull cards and I look for similarities, if there's a pattern, if there's a story that's being built up, if it's more than, a few cards, I start looking at that. But if you want to work on something like this, do one card before you go to sleep. But if you want to do something a little bit comprehensive, look for patterns, look for elemental similarities, look for gender. If there's a lot of masculine that's showing up in a card or in a reading, or feminine, that's leading into a direction as to where some of the weaknesses and strengths are. Also the landscape of the cards, the landscape being the background, the energy, what you're feeling from those cards. Are a lot of the cards leaning more on maybe anger? Um, there's only one five of pentacles or five of coins, depending on the deck. If you're starting to see a story pattern, look for that because those are keys that are telling you this is where the issue needs to be focused on or is at the forefront at that moment.
Find a deck that is for you feels gentle. A deck that perhaps is for me. I have a lot of watercolor decks in my library. There's something about that feels. I'm comfortable with water. I have a lot of fire in my chart, but I know that my medicine is going into the water.
Mhm.
And so if I were to do this, Lydianne, Lily Valley's name is Lydianne.
Oh,
If I were to do this, so I've picked up Shadowscapes Tarot, and I'm very gently shuffling this deck, and I'm focusing on my throat. And what's going through my mind is, what do I need to know about this tension that is in
mhm.
my throat? I thought that I had released this. So what is it that I'm what layer is yet to be healed, yet to be understood? And so I take a gentle deck. I chat this question. I run it through my mind, and then I pull a card.
Mhm.
And I sit with the card. And when I'm doing a very soulful reading like this, I leave the cards out, maybe one or three cards out on the altar, maybe in my
Yeah.
bedroom for some time. And I let it marinate. I come back to it. I journal.
Mhm.
Sometimes I might take one and with a deck like this, it's kind of beautiful if you can look at the artwork and go into the artwork
Yeah.
as you sleep. So that's really beautiful. But just out of curiosity, I'm going to pull a card. So because I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, let's see. This is Shadowscapes, correct?
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm. Really interesting. So it's the Page of Swords.
Oh.
And so what I would do, Lydiane, is to sit with the artwork, and she is leaning back. She's really, really comfortable, and I need to kind of figure out um, what's in her arms. I don't know if it's
Let's
a
see.
cat or or something.
Okay. Yeah, I can't tell.
I can't tell what it is. Um, mhm. So what I do is I sit with it and I have a conversation with it, and then I listen.
Mhm.
At some point, we need to stop talking, just quiet the mind,
Listen.
and just listen.
Yeah.
And listening can be really challenging sometimes.
Mhm. No, we can take things like immediately. You look at the card, you look at the visual, you look at what's in the card. It's the conscious connection that we first get with the card. And then, like you said, I do similar, whatever card. Write down how you feel at that moment. And then the next day, if you feel the need, if you feel the draw to it, if you feel things have changed, write down how you're feeling. If the feelings are still the same, leave it. But when you see that card or those series of cards that you pulled, if you start feeling something to express, write it down. And then when it's time to put the cards away, you can always reflect to that. Journaling is so important. It's part of this whole process. I actually pulled before we started. I have mentioned that Sadhana and I have pulled some cards, and I was going to work with the Cosmovisions deck. That's a pretty in-depth deck, and I haven't spent enough time with it. So I have the deck here, but I also had Dreams of Gaia. And just before we went on, it's like, okay, I got to decide. And I went to the Dreams of Gaia. I love the Dreams of Gaia because it's cosmic in its message. It has a very collective energy throughout the deck, but it's also very nurturing. It's a deck, I've mentioned this a few times, that this is like my mom deck, someone that I can go to, because it's all elemental, and we're all made up of the four elements, even though we're not balanced, but we're all made up of the four elements. This deck is very special to me. So I'm going to just show the cards very quickly. So this is the first card that I pulled. And this is the seven of fire. And then the next three cards that I pulled are all earth. Oh, that's a beautiful pattern that shows up. But that's not how it looks on the card. So I got 2 of earth. So we're dealing with balancing of so many different responsibilities, which was interesting to pull. 3 of earth. So we're making those steps to heal and, plant those seeds for growth.
That's a beautiful card of connection.
Yeah. That's why I was so surprised, Sadhana, that when I pulled these cards, they came out the way they did. And then this one, this is the King of Earth, which is associated with the sign of Taurus, which is my sun sign. And so it was just like grounding, but movement here. I feel this is
Her hands. Look where her hands are.
yeah, right between the heart and the throat, mainly the throat chakra. Is that what you see, Sadhana, or you see something else?
Yes, what I see. Yeah.
And
I have something to share.
please.
So I did which I need to write this reading up later. So I did a pentagram 5-card reading before we came on. And then now I pulled 2 additional cards to support that Page of Swords. So I've got 2 personal readings I'm going to dive into later.
Okay.
But there's a common card.
Mm.
And they look almost the same, identical. And I want to speak to this. It's the 7 of Swords. And in both of these, so one is Lovely Om and one is Shadowscapes. And in both of these,
wow.
there's looks like a young boy who's leaning over. In one, the sword is in hand, and one, he's reaching for the sword. But this is a really unusual body position for the 7 of Swords. I'm just kind of so what I wanted to say was there's this energy of reclaiming oneself that comes through the energy of that card. And something about that red color in the Lovely Om down in the water. It's like the heart.
The heart, yeah.
There's another term like the gold, searching for the gold, finding the treasure within. And in the process of finding oneself and reclaiming oneself, I mean, there's so many things I could say here, but we're searching for the heart, we're searching for the gold, we're searching for the treasure.
Mhm.
And in both of these pictures, one is into the water and one is into some kind of is into the earth, but it looks exactly like that. They're looking for the treasure. They're looking for the gold to reclaim themselves. So I think that's really beautiful.
Sadhana, one of the cards, the Om, the swords, are they under the water? Are they in water?
They are in water.
They are in water, and the other ones aren't.
No, the other ones are above and behind, but
Huh.
I was drawn to the body, the body position,
Yeah,
the same body position.
they're crouched low.
Hmm. They're crouched low and they're coming in contact with the earth.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm. And so my initial question for that first 5 card reading was, what do I need to know about helping others through their similar journey?
Mm.
Mhm.
Only you know that. But the fact that you got swords, though, right?
Mhm. Doesn't that
That's
speak to you know, we the journey through the swords is not only the most challenging suit, but it is the most spiritual of the 4 suits. I find it's a really powerful suit, and if we can navigate that suit, we can
Mhm.
do anything.
Yeah. I've been getting a few swords with another deck that I've been working with, and it's just like, "Okay, we're in the month of Libra, air,
Mhm,
swords, different kind of
mhm,
communication because Libra is about relationships and stuff." But, but yeah, it's the swords, yes, like you were stating, is challenging, but there's one aspect of me, I actually like a good challenge. And so
mhm,
if something like that shows up, it's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna shun it," but it's just like, "All right, let's remember what I was saying earlier? I want to address this straight on. I need to know, I need to know, get the knowledge, get the guidance that, um, that is being given to me, that's being hinted towards me."
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, this is so beautiful. So in this one,
What else?
the young person is looking for the treasure, and then in this one, they're letting the treasure go.
Oh, wow. That's the follow-up card that you just pulled?
Well,
Or you just pulled it?
no, no, these are these are the 2 follow-up. I pulled the Page of Swords, this one,
Right.
and then the 2 follow-up. I pulled 2 more because I wanted to look at this
Oh.
later, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
the message is there. Um,
Mhm.
an interesting point of view for a child to express his emotions by cards, oracle, or tarot, a thin thread between the adoptive parent and adoptive child, or and the adopted child. Hmm.
While I was growing up, it never occurred to me the pain that my mother went through in releasing me. It never, ever occurred to me.
There's no reason to think that though, right? When you're that young, until
No.
you're older.
Mhm,
And even when you have a child of your own, that's when I think you really feel it. Because I have
mhm,
no children. So I don't think in that perspective, and I don't mean that to sound selfish, but I think it's until you're put into a similar situation, like the birth parent, you're like, "Oh my god, now
mhm,
I know. What if? What would happen?" You know, it's completely individual. Um,
How
oh
would
my
you like to wind this up, Amy?
There's a lot to process. Um Does anyone have any other questions? I know we've had comments come in, and I've been glancing back and forth and seeing the conversation. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you, Jonathan, for all your lovely comments and
thank you.
participation in the conversation.
And I specifically to Jonathan, I I'm happy that you have your open heart, open mind to listen to us, not to be judgmental, because you do have a son that's in an open adoption. So I appreciate you listening to what Sadhana and I have to say, and also, of course, holding holding the space for what is best for your son. And I think that's beautiful. So I want to share that with you because I didn't get a chance to share that. You love that child, Jonathan. You know what to do. Okay. And
I'm doing
so,
readings with Jonathan on Saturday,
ah, okay. Okay.
so who knows
What
what direction that will take.
we'll see. That would be interesting. What
Mhm.
time is it, Sadhana?
10 Pacific.
10? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So for anyone who has been adopted or is considering adoption, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what our experience is. There's millions of us, I shouldn't say us, there's a millions of adoptive individuals out there, and we all have different experiences as to how we address or how we don't address some of these situations. And it's just a choice that that individual decides to make with their life. Some people, their life is fine and that's all they need, and that's good. But with others, there's that journey of wanting to know a little bit more. And that's why I approached Sadhana about this discussion, just to see, you know, what has been processed with us. We both have separation issues, but we're working through them in different ways. We learn through communicating with people, sharing the experience, which now, as we're winding this down, I'm happy we did this. Not that I wasn't, I was a little apprehensive, but I'm happy we did this because I feel things opened up for me a little bit more. You know,
Mhm.
there's still more. And with the readings that we did, you know, this is again just a little bit of a direction to start going through this whole process. Um, so, any last questions?
Well, there's lots of gratitude here. You're welcome, everybody.
Thank
Nancy
you.
and Jonathan and Andy and Lydianne and Ange and Anna. I think that's Anna's first comment in the chat. So you're very welcome. Thank you, Anna
Yes.
and
Thank you,
Jonathan
everyone. Um, someone else. Thank you, Jen.
and
Thank you so much.
Gerald. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. We appreciate the support, Gerald. Thank you as well. Thank you so much. Um, I don't know if it's a painful experience in the sense like it's something ongoing, but it's something that's deep. And the word pain is also right up there with abandonment. It's a hard word. So you know, that's something that I need to work with, just the term of the word pain and abandonment.
Well, how about the
These words.
expression that suffering, pain is not really an option, but suffering is,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Thank you.
And yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll end it here because it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. And I feel right now Sadhana and I are starting to process what we've been talking about. So that's why I feel the tone is kind of toned down a little bit with us. So you have your discussion on Saturday, so everyone please check out Sadhana's channel, 10 a.m. with Jonathan Daly. I put links for those who don't know Sadhana. Now you know a little bit more about her. Go and visit her channel, show support. She has a website, she does readings. She's just obviously a beautiful individual who comes from a place of compassion and understanding, and that's very hard to find nowadays. But she also speaks her mind, which is something I hold great regard. I like someone who just calls things like she how she sees them, how she feels them, and that's very important. So she's the real deal. Everyone have a
Really.
wonderful day, weekend, and I will be back soon with another episode on my channel.
And
Thank you.
Evie, thank you, Evie, for being here.
Thank
Okay,
you.
namaste, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.